Okay, so I am under the 5th gen Prelude here. I did the clutch and I noticed the rack boots were wet. It's right up here. The rack boots are wet. I got it pulled off here. The boots are destroyed. So I got them pulled all the way back and I'm just trying to figure out how nice I should be to the next potential owner. I'm just moving the rack by hand here. Let's see how wet this is. I'm just turning to the left. Let's turn it back out to the right. So, yeah, it's wet. So if I'm keeping this car, I'm gonna be fixing it. That's actually quite a bit of fluid there. Quite a bit of fluid. Let's try wiping it. Okay, this is a Japanese steering rack out of a Honda. This one's a Denso. So they usually will leak from the ends. There's a chance it could be leaking here from the input shaft. The problem with this is the seal is behind the bearing. So you gotta knock the bearing out in order to change the seal. The bearing's discontinued. You could probably take the number off the bearing. It's probably a Koyo, who knows. But when can I get that bearing? What's it gonna cost? So may just end up leaving this one here, even though it's got a little bit of dampness there. I don't exactly know how much is leaking because I didn't really take the trouble to find that out. It was wet on the bottom here. That could be from the guide, but who knows? So got to take this thing apart, get it fixed, change out the seals. So one seal is going to be in the end here, and the other seal is going to be right here before the whole control. So either shaft of the tube are the seals, and this one, you could probably do it on the car. Just get the end off, drill a couple of holes in the seal, pull it out, tap a new one in. But the fact is, it's leaking on this side too. Yeah, so that's just trouble. It's getting past this seal, going through here and coming out the end. So got to change these seals, got to take it apart. Let's get at it. Okay, so step one, should take off this end piece here. Now, some of these have a wire ring that you got to pull out. This one does not. Some of these should be crimped on the tube, like this one right here. It's got a punch mark. So the easiest way to do that, is supposed to drill it, or you could grind it, or you could just try to force it, put it in a vise and just work it till it pops out. But how much that is indented in there, may as well drill it. Let's get to drilling. So use as small of a drill bit as possible. I might actually have to go one size up. Put it in the big vise, loosened it. So that's coming off. I got my bucket on the floor here on the other side of the bed. So if I unscrew this and it leaks everywhere, it's going into the bucket. It's gonna leak a little bit. So I just gotta be organized and try to remember where everything went when you're putting it back together. For whatever reason, it's hanging up here. Very strange. Anyways, so there's the end. There's a bushing that it slides on. You really don't have to do anything with this one here. I kind of scraped it up a little bit, pulling it off. I wonder why it was so tight. So there's got to be a burr on here. I guess you could hit all this with a wire wheel. I'm probably going to hit it with a wire wheel just so the seals go on a lot easier. You don't want to have any sharp edges. Yeah, a little bit of a sharp edge here. I don't know what from, but yeah, hit this with a wire wheel before trying to slide on any seals. So the leaky seals, one of them you can see in the end here, just inside. This tube does not separate. Okay, let's blow this other side off. Okay, so maybe let's fast forward. Let's get these lines off. This is boring, you don't need to see this. Of course, I spoke too soon, so, you know, if something's seized, take your time and get it out, because if this line breaks, SOL, I'd be making up a new line. This would be a big waste of time, so better spend a few minutes here heating this up and getting it off correctly, rather than, you know, hours and hours and hours. All right, so those are free. Yeah, no worries there. Yeah, that's the last of the lines. This stuff is old and brittle, all the plastics, so just, yeah, be real careful. These lines here, I'm just gonna spray them with some of this, because they're, and I'll make sure I get it all out later, because they're very tight. You don't want to be breaking these later, but look how tight that is. Anyways, let's let this rust penetrant soak in here. It's so tight. I'll spend a little bit of time freeing that up later, but just spray them now, get them out of the way. Right over there. This here, the follower that gives tension. You gotta knock that off the end here. There's a jam nut, and then this is what tightens it. There's a specific torque sequence for that. Just get the jam nut off. Very similar to the recall that's happening right now on all the newer cars for the sticky steering. Yeah, there's a lot of grease in there. There's the spring, and then the follower. Nothing too complicated here. but there's a lot of fluid in here. It smells like power steering. So yeah, the seal there probably leaking inside. We all like grease plus power steering fluid. Yeah, so that's the follower. Just goes along the shaft of the rack to keep it in place. Be putting some lube on this later on the reinstall. Yeah, spend some time cleaning this all up before it goes back together. Okay, now this should be able to pull up. All right, so there's a bunch of grease, bearing, seal. This seal, hopefully it's in the kit. So let's clean all this up. Should be just grease, but I think there is some power steering fluid in there too, which means, well, definitely. The seal on this side is leaking because it came out the end. Hopefully that's all it is. So this guy, now, if it's not grossly leaking, I say just leave it alone, because it's got to come apart, which isn't that difficult. But like I said, that bearing is obsolete from the dealership, so it may not even be able to get a replacement. But man, this bearing feels like shit. It really does. Son of a bitch. Oh, it's so rough. So I'm gonna clean and repack the bearing. It's feeling a little bit better now that I'm working it, but it's not good. When this goes together, you should pack this with grease. I just wonder how much it's leaking. Alright, that's what that looks like. Just gonna keep everything as clean as I can. Power steering was pretty good in this car, so I'm not gonna mess with any of this. Man, this bearing is so rough. I'm gonna try to, well, getting better. Anyways, yeah. Just gonna put this aside. See this guy here, this is the seal in the end, and then there's the bearing, so. Should I attempt? Actually, hell man, there's not even a bearing in there. It's just a seal. Nothing is spinning. Okay. Okay, interesting. So, I'm changing that seal, guaranteed. So there's no bearing to break. What am I feeling here? Anyways, they're all a little bit different, a little bit the same. So yeah, I'm gonna try to tap that out and change the seal. Just maybe like a bronze bushing here. So yeah, that's hopefully gonna get replaced as long as I got that seal in the kit. I'm gonna change it. Yeah, very interesting. There's a weird pattern in there. I don't know if it's just a whole dude, those 4 dots, but I will try to tap that out. Okay, so now you pull the piston out of the housing here. I'm trying not to scratch anything. I'm gonna knock it out. Yeah, it's just a punch with a piece of plastic on it. And this is knocking out the seal on the other end. Or you bash it on the ground. Yeah, bash it on the ground just like a Honda manual transmission. Set in that clip. Okay, so here comes the piston. And then here's the power steering tube. Let's just let it drip a little more here. Hit this with the parts cleaner. That's stuff I don't like so much. I'll do it outside. Okay, so it's sufficiently clean. I think I'm gonna go over it again once I get the seal out. So there's a seal inside. There's actually a special tool, and it's meant to push against the washer and the seal. So I'm gonna throw that down the hole here. So it's gone inside, sideways now. I'm just gonna keep shaking it until it's facing the way I want. Try not to lose it, keeps falling out. But the hole is not big enough to just go down the end there. Anyway, so let's have a look here. Inside down the hole. Yes, and it's facing the right way. So now this 3/8 goes inside. I clicked it in place. So now you just tap it out. You're supposed to put it in a press, but who's got time for that? Almost at the end here. All right, there it is. Show you how that works. So this tool goes down it engages the washer, which engages the seal. That's it. So just remember the orientation here. Usually the fancy side goes towards the fluid. So I'm gonna put that back in the same way. So it's gonna clean this tube a little more, and then time to install the seals. Just clean this shaft up a little bit. I noticed when the end came off here, the bushing got scored a little bit from all the machine surfaces, or maybe somebody was doing a tie rod end and smoked it, who knows. But just gonna clean up any rough edges there. And you can go ahead and clean up the gear too. This won't matter. Now, probably every time I'm putting this down, I'm very cautious of the piston seal here. I don't want to change it. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. So you're going to use a little bit of lube here. Genuine Honda power steering fluid. So there's a little bit of a trick here. See, the seal goes on first, and then we put on the backing ring. So the seal is going to be facing fluid side in, so this side. So that's going in. A little bit of lube on the seal. And then I want to just slip a piece of plastic over this, just because you don't want to hurt the seal. Come on. That's that. So seal in, and then you got the backer ring on, like so. Get rid of the old seal. This is still the old seal on here. Alright, so now I can put this back into the tube. A little bit of lube on the seal, never hurt anybody. Alright, so that's going inside this way. A little more lube. You'll know when you hit the end. Pretty close. That hit the ground. Okay, that's got to be the end. end seal, a little bit of lube on this. Now you're supposed to put the plastic on, but yeah, I don't know how critical. Now you don't want to pull this shaft out too far. If you pull it out too far, the teeth are going to end up riding on your seal. You don't want that. Okay, so that's that. Then this just screws on the end. Just going to push this in a little bit. I'm not going to screw the cap on yet because we got to deal with the controls here. Okay, now I said I wanted to change this seal if I have it because there's no bearing there. So I got 2 seals in the kit. That's not the one. So this has to be the one. The other seal goes on the control shaft. Okay, so let's just tap this out of there. I want to confirm that's the one. Yeah, it seems to be. Okay, so this is the scary part. Because if this thing breaks, I'm buying a whole rack. Let's get something to tap this out. I might actually, should I press it out? I might actually press it out. But, okay, the seal is out. New seal's going back in. I just put the bushing over top of it. I'm gonna head back over to the press this in place. Okay, so I'm pretty happy I got that seal changed. The one on the housing here, so that's done. And that's good. So then this is the last high pressure seal, and may as well try and change it. So this should slide off pretty easily. There's a little circlip here. I'm too lazy to get, you gotta get the right tool. There's always the right tool for the job. Okay, so this is the old channel lock. Nothing to it. Should slide right off. There's the seal. Let's hope it's the right one. Yeah, looks right. So I'm not gonna go crazy on this one. Like I said before, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. All right, so a little bit of lube. Just for the seal's sake. Slide that back over. That goes back on. All right, there it is. So some of these clips here have a chamfer on it, which this rounded side faces down. This one, no such thing. You just have to line up that pin with that slot, and then that's ready to slide in. But yeah, let's get some lube here. So once that goes in, I'm not gonna be able to lube it again. Really sticky, but yeah, I put it down in the hole here. And the bearing should get some lube, just because this bearing does not see power steering fluid. It's on the other side of the seal. So I don't want to take it apart and repack it, but I do want to lube it pretty well. Got the clip on, we got this all lubed up. I got this bearing packed full of grease. There's another bushing at the bottom there that's all packed full of grease as well. So now we got to put this housing back on, a little bit more lube here, a little bit of power steering fluid on here. It's wet all the way around. This got to go in the hole here. So I got to get the bearing back into the housing. So special tool. It's gonna be a hammer. That about does it. Again, I'm gonna wipe off any plastic I might have put on the end here. That grease is so thick. So this is going into the housing. There's an O-ring here, fresh O-ring. I'll slide that over the bearing, and this should slip into the hole. Surprised I haven't dumped this power steering over yet. Might have to work the shaft a bit. Looks good. That's on there. Nice and free. Now, it's just going back together. I usually put lube on everything. Loctite or Never Sees. It's always get something. So I'm gonna prep these, put them in. I'll figure out a torque spec. Not too critical. But anyways, let's finish that up. Yeah, so it is steel going into aluminum. So just a little bit of Never Sees there on the threads. I don't know why, man. I've been doing it like that since always. So why stop now? And I looked it up. It's 14 foot-pounds. Still spins nice. I'm just gonna snug these up. I'm not gonna torque them just yet. Just snug. And it spins nice and free. So put that end cap on now. This is the other side that seals there. So this guy, I gotta clean up the end. I usually put something on the threads. That was pretty tight, and it gets staked, so I'm just gonna put some grease on it. You don't need Loctite. Okay, so got more of the super sticky lube on the inside. The threads, hey, why not? That was stiff. It was stiff coming off. Maybe some lube will help it for the next guy. Okay, the seals inside. This should slip on. Oh yeah, the burrs. Yeah, no, side's on nice. So this here, you just gotta tap it on enough until I can get the threaded portion started. Yep, it caught it. Okay, I'm gonna put that in a vise and give her. Also gonna torque these to whatever that was, 14 foot-pounds. Some grease in the top here. It calls for grease right where that shaft is. I'm gonna wipe off the excess. This guy goes on, and then there's nothing to the follower. Just the follower goes on just hand tight. Load this up with a bunch of grease as well. I'll show you how that works. Get all the dirt off that. Like so. Here's the spring. So this one needs some RTV on it. So I'm gonna put some RTV on the threads there. Typical, eh? Not coming out the end where it's supposed to. I'm just grabbing it from the side. Just on the threads. Not enough that it's gonna wind up in the housing. Okay, so this guy, gonna tighten it down. Yeah, they actually like to leak from here. That's why there's RTV on it. Okay, so tight, loosen. Tight, going like just a couple inch-pounds, and then back off 15 to 20 degrees. That's it. There you go. That'll do it. And I'm just gonna Move this RTV around the edge here so it makes a nice seal. Smooth it out. Just like you're caulking your bathroom. Habit never sees on these threads. Actually, I should put it on the line too because it's super sticky. A little bit of prep for the next one. This has got to spin very easily by hand. Otherwise, it's just risky. Got to be able to spin it by hand, finger tight. I don't want to force it with a wrench because that's when you risk cross threading it. Little bit of never sees, but that's started by hand now. A little bit of never sees on that one. Anyways, the boring stuff, you don't need to see this. So that's how you do it. And the whole reason we're doing this is because aftermarket racks tend to suck. They don't leak, but they usually have bent shafts, because maybe from accident cars. So the money you pay for them and they're not right from the get-go, it sucks. So if you can rebuild the original one, that's the way to go. Most of these cars, you can't buy a new original one, and if you could, like $1,000, way too much. So this is a good life skill. Rebuild your steering rack. Okay, so the absolute last thing you got to do is this end here. Even though it's on there pretty good, you got to stake it. It was originally staked there. We drilled it out, so you got to stake it on the exact opposite side. So it's going to be right about here. Yeah, right about there. So this is an old chisel, and I've made it into a staker. It's gonna be hard to do here. I gotta put it in the vise. Anyway, so yeah, that is the absolute last step. Just staking that in nut, and you're done. Boom.